Hello, and welcome to the New York Baltic Film Festival and this year's virtual edition. It is a pleasure to welcome viewers from all over the US as we adapt to this new format. Established in 2018, the New York Baltic Film Festival is presented by Scandinavia House and organized by the Consul General of Estonia, the Consul General of Lithuania, and the Consulate of Latvia in New York. Financial support for the festival comes from the Estonian Film Institute, the National Film Center of Latvia, and the Lithuanian Film Center, with an additional sponsorship by the Lithuanian Cultural Institute, the American Latvian Association, and Latvia 100. Today, we are speaking with Jūle Rozīte, the head of the programs for the festival and the main curator, and their director, Alise Zariņa, the director of the Latvian comedy Nybff. I do apologize on the name pronunciations. Which is in the Laugh and Cry section of this year's festival during the first weekend. And the festival is divided into 3 sections, and the second session, Stress and Release, screens on October 29th and November 1st, and the festival concludes with Looking Inward and Forward, Baltic Showcases, from November 12th to the 15th. So you can watch, so we can see all of those films as well. So please do welcome Jūle and Alise.
Hi, so thank you. If you're watching this video, you probably just finished watching Nearby, and if you haven't, then there might be a few spoilers in here just for your information. So because the festival is completely online this year and no one was able to travel, our normal post-screening Q&As have turned into kind of Q&A conversations with the directors. So as Kyle mentioned, I have Alise Zariņa here with me, and I'll just give a quick bio about who you are, and then we can dive into questions. So Nearby is Alice's first feature film. She's known in Latvia as a critic and film critic and writer, as well as Hi, Alice.
Hi.
Let's start with a few questions. So where are you currently located?
Well, I'm in Riga. I can still walk around for now, as opposed to you, as I realized. But yeah, I'm in Riga, so quite hopefully safe and
for now.
Just a bit afraid for the future, but
as all of us are. So how have the COVID-19 restrictions, which were admittedly milder in Latvia, but we still had them in the spring, how have they affected your work, and in particular your artistic output or your work?
Well, I think we had quite a break from all the filmmaking process, and you can hear me well, right? It's all fine, yeah. Okay, so I think I'm a bit jealous to people who could actually use this time for writing and who could like isolate and who could make best out of it. I couldn't, so I think I was more for the people waiting desperately to get back out. And we did, but now it's looking a bit bleak again. So let's see where it takes, because I think filmmaking is definitely on some kind of halt right now, and we'll see what happens in the future, probably as everywhere else.
Yeah. So Nearby is, as I mentioned, your first film. What was it that you made this particular story?
Come again? I didn't hear you.
This particular story. What was it about the story that made you want to make your first feature film? You know, it's quite a big step.
Well, I knew what I want to do, like theoretically, like what kind of subjects I'd like to look into. I wanted to do some kind of generational story. I wanted to put a focus on the female heroine, definitely. And then I was like more or less looking for, because I think we had this idea of something like a road trip story. And I think first of all, I wanted to make a breakup story. And I thought I want to make a funny breakup story. But then I started writing and I realized, oh my God, this is my first feature. And I'm trying to do something so like serious and kind of sad and devastating and make it light and funny. I thought, okay, I have to somehow make it wider so I can include more of this lightness I'm looking for. So instead it became this 3-part relationship story, but still, yeah, for me it was important to focus on the female voice, because I don't think in Latvia we have enough of those in film or in life.
So it's obviously, and like in reviews as well, what people talk about the most, relaxed dialogue that feels very fresh and something new. So you worked with someone on the dialogue. Can you talk about the writing process?
We worked mostly two of us. I had my co-writer, and as I tend to tell, like her cat was our first audition because we tried to talk out loud all the dialogues. He looked more or less skeptical all the time, but then also I think we talked to other people. Like for younger people, I called my little sister, she's 19 now, and I was like, is this how young people talk? And she was laughing at me, but we tried to figure that out. And as well as I think that with actors, I asked many times, like, do you think, does this come natural to you or your character? And my actress, Ante, said at one point, please stop asking this because I have no idea how people talk anymore, because it was so important for me to get it like natural. So I was really like experimenting. And at one point, I think, even lost the some kind of objective ground for that. But right. Yeah, that was one thing I really wanted to do, because I think that's also an issue for Latvian cinema, that maybe because of time, we do films quite quickly with low budgets, etc. And I think the dialogue is sometimes just left behind, so it doesn't feel like real people talking. That's something I really would want to change also in future.
So it sounds like you were quite flexible with the dialogue and working with the actors and allowing them to change things. Like, was this also like in the rehearsal process or on set already, where you're like, well, if you don't want to say this, make some, how involved were the actors basically in the dialogue?
Less than I wanted to, because we shot in crazy fast time. We shot in 2 weeks and we did some rehearsals, but not as much as I wanted. Like my fantasy in my head, it was a film that would go like with long rehearsals, and we would go through with actors, but it was quicker than I thought. And now when I look at the script, it hasn't changed that much. There are some parts of Aris, my actor, who improvises, but it's quite to the script. It was more that we kept rewriting each scene before the day of filming, I think, because we wanted to make sure once again it feels natural in where are we at now, like when we know the characters already. But yeah, something like that. I would love to have more of that, but
right. So there's a lot of like very specific Latvian pop culture references in the film, and you've played the film abroad as well at like other international festivals. So have you noticed, like, has anyone thought that it keeps them from like understanding the film? Like, is it too specifically Latvian, or is it kind of international? Like, how do international audiences react?
Well, Cottbus, it was a small screening, but I had a feeling they got it and they enjoyed it. Beforehand, I kind of wanted to explain what midsummer means to us, because that's a bit specific concept maybe. But of course, I think it's more about, it has a lot of dialogue, definitely for a film. So I think it's more that you have to listen to a foreign language. It's always a bit weirder to get the idea. But other than that, my foreign friends who have seen it, they had some questions, but not as much as I expected them to have, because I think that maybe they didn't know the exact things, but there are equivalents for these exact things in other countries and other languages, let's say.
No, it adds a lot of color, so it's nice to see that. We're awarded Best Screenplay at the Latvian National Film Awards. How did you feel about that? Like, was it kind of a culmination? Was it, yeah. Talk about how it was.
I mean, I was really surprised and pleasantly shocked that we were nominated. We could have been nominated as a best debut film, which we weren't. We were competing in all the categories as I like to say, real cinema, because we were micro budgets and debut director, and that year we were like selected, I think, 6 categories instead of 1, which would be the debut film. And I thought that if we can get one of those, it could be the script writing one. Yet somehow, when I was sitting in the ceremony, I started to see the other films that they're playing in front of me, and I remember myself sitting there and thinking, no, we're not gonna get it. These films are just way too good. Damn it! And then when I thought this damn it thing, then they called my name, and then I think my first thing that I And what I think is important for me, I waited for my co-writer who was somewhere in the back to come. And then I really needed to hug her because I realized that this is a teamwork, you know, and we only could do it together. And yeah, I guess that was the moment when I realized that something about women power again, because I know that together we could do more, and then we kind of did. So that made me happy. But yeah, it was nice. I mean, what else can I say? Of course, it was a bit of a surprise, but yeah. Did it make sense as an answer? I'm not sure.
Sorry, I think my internet's a bit funny, but I'm going to assume that I heard the last of your sentence and just go on to the next question. So you've mentioned a few times the micro budget and the short amount of time that you had to film in. Like, why did it end up like that? Like, why did you only have 2 weeks to film the whole film? It's quite unusual to hear that, and comparing the product to hearing the difficulties you might have had, it doesn't really connect because it just feels so complete, you know? So how did you end up with a micro budget and such a short amount of time?
Well, it was supposed to be that way in that sense that I was afraid that otherwise I will never get my chance to do my debut film. In the sense, can you hear me still or no? Yeah, it's good. Okay, sorry. So I thought that it might be really hard for me to make such a convincing, let's say, script as a first-time director to go and make a big budget film, because I think it's hard for newcomers. So we aimed for this one, which was this micro budget thing. And we kind of thought, let's try. If we get that money, then we'll figure out. So that is basically what happened. I have advertising background. My producer had advertising background, so somehow I think that helped a lot in the sense that first of all, we knew people who wanted to help, and second, we know how to work in like big kind of discipline and trying to work out things really quickly. So that helped a lot. But we knew where we're going for, and we knew it's going to be hard, and yet we saw that as a good chance, because like first-time director, first-time producer, first-time DOP for a feature film, and in that combination, we would have, I don't think, ever done it differently. You know, nobody would give us the credit of trust.
Wow.
That much.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And so, talk about your biggest challenges, or was it just financing and time? Is there anything else that that you learned from, maybe, that was, I don't know, good or bad?
I think that one thing that like it was the moment that it was, I think it freaked me out, the idea that it's a first-time director again, that I have to like do this in this again a short time, and I have to make all these decisions. But I think more or less we were so many people without experience, and we kind of learned to trust each other. It still worked out as a miracle, because till the last moment, I mean, I remember I was sitting in an editing room, our first preview for some people, and I was basically all the time I was lying in the lap of my editor, like when you're doing horror films, when you don't want to watch screen, it's too like scary, and people were watching, and I was like, is it over yet? Is it over yet? Is it over yet? And then I like got up my head, and I realized that people actually liked it, because till the first screening, I was all the time, if you're doing, you know, this no experience, low budget, fast, it wasn't supposed to work out, you know. But yeah, probably it was, for me, the most important was to learn to like trust myself on this, because I knew we don't look like we're gonna make it, and somehow we did. And maybe that's the thing I learned, like not to be afraid to fail at one point, which of course is maybe a cliche thing to do, but I know that before I was writing the script, and a producer I knew told me, like, you know, that people will judge you after your first film. And I was like stuck on the script and desperate. I'm like, oh my God, don't tell me this. And then I made the film, and somebody just recently asked me, what about your next film? I'm like, I don't know, I'm working on it. And the guy was like, you know, everybody will judge you after your second film. I was like, no, they won't. Who cares? You know, when you, I was so afraid that like doing this, that I don't think that anything else will scare me in future, because I think we kind of did some quite unlikely thing to do. So
yeah. No, I did kind of later want to touch on, because Latvia is it is a very small society in certain ways, and you have made a name for yourself in kind of other industries, but also in the film industry as a critic. you feel that you had extra eyes on you, like because of this more nervousness, or yeah, how is it to work in such a small scene?
I'm not sure if I got the question. But I think I got the question.
Yeah.
So the question.
I'm just thinking, like, if since you are a film critic as well, did you feel that you had extra pressure to kind of make the perfect film?
I maybe a little bit, but maybe I also think that people gave me credit for that. I mean, that they knew I understand cinema a bit, so they kind of trusted me a bit more than if I was only, I don't know, just a film school graduate or whoever. But I know that I didn't do one thing I promised. I said I'm going to write a really bad review on my own film when it's done. I didn't have time for that. I had planned to do that because I thought that would be a funny thought experiment how to do that. And actually the editor-in-chief of the magazine is still upset with me that I didn't, because I said I would, because people like asked me, like, aren't you afraid of bad critics? I said, like, probably I'm the worst critic of myself and I can prove it by actually writing it. So, but that's something I missed. But yes and no, I think we are a small society anyways, and maybe it helped me too that my name was a bit known related to cinema, that people were actually willing to see what I do. So because somehow people were interested to see the movie when it came out, and maybe it's harder for people whose names are not heard like with cinema context. So probably it's more in my favor than against, I think.
And so do you feel that the characterization of it as like a film of a generation or a film for young people, do you feel like that's accurate, or does it have cross age appeal, or do you mind being called like the voice of your generation?
That's very cute to call me that way, but no, I know that young people actually like the film more, like younger than me. I'm 33 now, so a lot of 20-year-olds like the film a lot, I think. And then also there is this older generation who kind of likes it, but there's in Q&A sessions, I've noticed a funny thing that sometimes, let's say middle-aged generation sometimes feel the need to say that, oh, it's so nice to look back at these times, you know, when we were so naive. Now I'm married and happy. And I actually had like 3 people who said that, I think at least at Q&A. I'm like, why are you, I mean, what's the point to actually stand up in a room of people and say, now I'm married and happy and I know what I'm doing with my life? And that's always like, then I realized I might touch the nerve there also, because I think this general confusion about life is something we really hope to diminish, like make smaller with age, but I don't think it ever like kind of stops. But I went away from the question, but I don't know. I mean, I want more of these films because I don't think I can represent a generation. Definitely, I think we need more of that. We have huge focus and like this on history, and my biggest fear is that Latvian cinema will like go on history till the moment, you know, my generation also becomes a history, because I want to look at my generation now as opposed to look back at it, because looking back is always nostalgic, maybe some kind of stereotype thing and so on. But so I really I'd rather want this film to inspire other directors to talk about their like own times and generations. They probably know better than they would ever know past.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So that kind of answers one of my other questions, but maybe what did you find that was so, I mean, looking at your generation now is of course like an important thing to want to say in the first place, but was there anything specific about relationships that you didn't see either in Latvian culture or maybe in culture in general? Because you mentioned you wanted to start writing about divorce or breakups, but then you kind of veered clear of that. And, you know, the film does touch on jealousy and couple pregnancies and whatever. So was there something that you were like saying about relationships?
Well, I think that unfortunately we do too much of these things, that we talk about relationships from the like men's point of view, which and women are in Latvian films, at least I can name several ones where women want to be mothers and that's their mission and their goal in life. So I don't think we have much of the opposites, like telling this motherhood as a more complicated issue. That's one thing. And I wanted to reverse the roles a little bit. I mean, it's not, I think this film is very light. It's not even feminist or something, but I wanted at least to tickle these themes. Like, and it already got some kind of reaction because like people, when I had interviews about the film, quite several times journalists asked me about what's my relationship of wanting or not wanting to give birth, which I thought was not very appropriate question, you know. And in that sense, I have something more from this, again, female point of view. I'm repeating myself, but just seeing also a bit this like less simplified, again, it's not very complicated, the relationship they're having, but yeah, more like study relationship as something that is constantly like growing, changing, and has like not this romantic love, then parenthood, then something else, like this very like superficial vision of it, I guess.
Even the glimpses into her like previous relationships, or his as well, it just shows kind of a diversity of relationship in the sense of like two people together instead of like boyfriend girlfriend, like such a variety of together with people. I found that very refreshing because, as you say, like I do think it is very simplified in not just Latvian but like all culture, you know. It's so no, I mean I appreciated that. So you've said in interviews before that you were surprised that you were the film was picked up by the bigger cinema chains. Was this because of the funding that went into it, or how does that process work, and why were you even surprised by?
Didn't hear the end of the question, but I think I got the question, but I'll answer. But because we had these micro budget things before, and they didn't really go into big cinemas like before. They were just, you know, these indie small cinemas. And when I think when we went to the big cinema chain first time, they didn't want to take the film. Then we changed distributors and we kind of fought for it. And then at the end, it did quite good. And I think that might sound, maybe I'm wrong, but I had the feeling that we changed even the view on these films, because now I see small budget like films on big screens, at least for some weeks. But I don't think it's like easy for the cinemas to take risks, because there's still kind of stigma. If it's a local movie, it might not do so great unless it's one of the big ones. But somehow there were many obstacles that came into the place. There was one film was canceled, so they had a spot. We were ready. We wanted to go, and somehow, yeah, it was in the cinemas for quite a long time. I think 4 months, 3 months. Like I remember I was posting like last screening for 2 months, and then I thought I should stop this because my friends on Facebook probably think that I'm very boring right now, but it just kept coming up, and that surprised me that it really kept on.
Yeah. And you screened the film online as well, on the Latvian site, I think during a midsummer like marathon screening or something. So what is it like to not be able to engage with an audience? Like obviously you as a director aren't at every single screening, but like, and even with this, like, what does it feel like to just kind of never meet the viewers? Do you not mind, or is it a bit sad?
I mean, in the festival sense, of course, it's a bit sad, because like, also I had one more film this year traveling, and I'm not traveling was my film, and yeah, that feels a bit different. Of course, it's like it gives you so much. For some reason, it also makes me humble, because I think I can brag about my film right now with a distance, because nobody's like watching me closely. But when I see those people who came to see, you know, I'm stealing their time from their life, so I better like give them some kind of satisfaction, I guess. but that's a very nice feeling of humbleness. Also, I mean, I don't watch the whole film anymore, but I kind of really enjoy still learning that people laugh in different places. Because it was so funny because we were editing and we were like, this might be funny, this might not, but like every screening is different and jokes work differently. So we realized that you can't really, like, there's no formula for funny, and somehow yet it's very interesting to see and hear how people react. So I miss that a lot. And I hope one day this ends and we can be present again, because yeah, I think it gives lots of, I don't know, like it makes it real, seeing your viewers, like, and you realize there's actually a film you made, and that's a nice feeling.
Cool. So my last question is about what is your next project, and what are you working on? Do you want to share any tidbits with us, or are you? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay, I'll answer. Well, I'm kind of writing right now, but as I say, kind of writing. We got some funding for developing a film, like this time from National Cinema Foundation, which is nice, and I'd like to take it slow, but of course not so slow as I'm taking it right now, because when people ask how I'm doing, I always say that I have this folder on my laptop with the film's name on it, so that's a start, but I probably should start getting things into that folder. But I think like very generally, I think that Nearby was my way of trying to speak about themes that matter to me, without like risking too much, because I thought it's already a big responsibility having to do this film, like with all the constraints. And right now I would try to less please people, if that makes sense, with my next project, and work more on these, like again, on female characters. That will not change. The other thing I hope will not change, I still want to do some bit serious topics with a touch of lightness, but maybe I want to explore a bit like deeper and darker sides now. Like when I said previously that I wanted to do this breakup story, and then I kind of jumped back to a lighter one. So right now it's not a breakup story I'm writing, but still I want to explore relationships and maybe go to a bit darker corners and see if I can still make people laugh, but yeah, I don't want to do exactly the same formula or thing, and I'll probably try to please people less. Let's see how that works out. but yeah, hopefully in near future I'll get somewhere, and meanwhile I'm also doing some short projects, short films, and right now I'm screening also on Nybff and in Libex this film days, short film on abortion. That's very important for me. Also not a very big potential for being a crowd pleaser, but like again, to explore these like a bit problematic things that we don't talk enough in this society here. So something in that direction. But yeah, I'm not sure if I answered. I went more or less to all directions. But I'm writing, and I think I'm not. I'm learning to be less afraid. You know, when I told you previous that I was like really like scared to death when I was like writing my first film. So I hope to go a bit easier on myself and say some things a bit louder and see where it takes me.
No, it sounds great. Okay, I think that wraps up our conversation. Thank you so much for joining me for this slightly jerky conversation. I'm sure the audiences will have enjoyed your film as well and the conversation. So thank you so much. Kyle will say a few things.
Thank you so much, Jūle, and thank you so much, Alise. And thank you thank you, the audience, for joining us for the festival. And I hope to see everyone soon. And I hope you enjoyed the films. And please do check out all 9 films. They're all wonderful films. They have a nice overview of great Baltic cinema. So thank you again. See you soon.